Tired, weary, frustrated? What would you be doing if you weren't raising children alone? What's stopping you from living your best life now? On SoloMoms Talk, I discuss with solo mothers the challenges you face raising children alone. So if you're a working solo mom dealing with independent children, insensitive bosses, weight and health issues, or even debt collectors, join us as we discover your path to get and stay healthy, increase your income, and live with joy and purpose.
In this battle of life, it's hard to keep your head above the water. So win this fight.
My guest today is Angel Counsel. Thank you for coming and talking to me today, Angela. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about, I'm sorry. I just had a pizza and it fogged over my brain. So
we'll be talking about that a little bit, I think.
I'm not used to eating like that, but today, Anyway, thank you for coming and talking to me today. Before we get into our subject for today, can you tell us who Angela is? Introduce yourself to us.
Okay, so for most of your listeners, they will probably realize that I have an accent. Well, I don't think I've got an accent. You guys have got an accent. So I'm from Australia, from Sydney, Australia. So it is tomorrow already now. I am a naturopath. So I've been a naturopath now for nearly 20 years. Also a kinesiologist and a personalized health coach. I have worked in women's health most of the time that I've been a naturopath. So I've worked helping women have babies, get their cycles back on track. And as I started to move through menopause, I kind of thought I knew that menopause was what it was all about. It's just about hot flushes. I soon realized that it was more than that because I was living it, and hot flushes was not my biggest issue. And there was so much I didn't understand. I didn't understand what was happening and how that impacted emotionally and everything that goes with going through menopause, because for anyone who's listening, menopause is not just hot flushes. It is so much more. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be a struggle. It is so much more because it's an opportunity. I see it as a time, an opportunity for us as women to start to put ourselves first, because many of us, we've raised families, we've been in relationships, we've done jobs, run businesses, whatever, and we've put other people first. And now as we come through this time of life, many women, their children are getting older, they're a little bit more independent, and they kind of go, well, what now? What's now? Mm-hmm. And what now is, now it's your time. It's your time to create what it is in your health and in your life going forward. So that's kind of what I do. And I'm really passionate about teaching women more about what's going on with their hormones, because I believe that when women understand what's happening with their hormones, they don't have to be afraid, and they can make decisions because they know why things are happening, rather than thinking that everything is going wrong and that their body is failing them and all of that stuff. There is, when you understand what's happening, then you can make different decisions. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I came from corporate, did corporate for 20 odd years, and now I've been doing this for 20 odd years. So about half and half on corporate and being a naturopath. I'm halfway there.
Oh, wow. Well, that means you're an expert on the topic. You don't only talk about it, you live it as well.
Totally.
So I have an example for you, and I want you to explain what happened. So I had this friend, and she was in her 60s, and one day we were just talking about this kind of stuff, and she went, there are days when I get so frustrated that I just pick things up and just throw them all over the place. And I don't know why. I just feel like doing it. And I remember doing that in my 20s during certain times of the month. Can you explain that? Because I'm thinking that's the hormones talking.
Yes and no. So,
Okay.
yes, hormone. Let's actually just take a little bit of step back. I will answer that question. So, just to so women understand what's happening as women kind of get to their late 30s, early 40s, their hormones start to shift, and this is because the egg supply is running out. So we're getting less eggs and less quality. So what that means is progesterone, which is one of the hormones, will start to drop, and quite often estrogen gets higher. And then over time, estrogen starts to come down too. So the hormones do start to come down. Now, this is a natural shift. This is supposed to happen because we are no longer in our reproductive stage of life. If you remember right back to when you were in puberty, you kind of went through these emotional changes where you're throwing tantrums and things like that, because what was happening was your hormones were shifting up at that stage. Now they're shifting back, and the hormones are going back to where they were when you're in puberty because you no longer have any eggs left. Now, that's all well and good, but the problem is in that time between when you went through puberty and when we go through menopause, is there's a whole pile of stuff that's happened in the middle, and that's the baggage. That's the emotional baggage. That's the physical baggage. That's all the stress. That's everything that we've done to our bodies in that 40-odd years between starting our periods and ending our periods, and all that comes together and starts to highlight as our hormones drop. Now, hormones are protective, and as we lose that protection of the hormones, a lot of other stuff comes up. Now, the other thing and what affects our moods is our brain is changing as well. So when we are fully reproductive and our ovaries are producing hormones, the ovaries and the brain speak together. So there's a conversation going on all of the time, and each month, yes, you'll have these conversations going back. And if your hormones are out of balance, that's when you're more likely to get moods. So many women have out of balance hormones when they're in their cycling years, so the week or so before their periods, their estrogen levels are a little bit too high, and that can make you a little bit emotional, whether it's teary, angry, whatever. And this is the connection between the brain and the ovaries. So that's out of balance because we're not sending the right messages backwards and forwards. But as we get into menopause, what happens is that the messages between the brain and the ovaries now start to shut down because the ovaries are no longer producing the hormones, so we're no longer getting the messengers. So now what the brain has to do, the brain's very clever, it has to find another way of getting the information. Now, when our ovaries don't produce hormones, our adrenal glands now have the ability to produce the hormones. So what happens is the brain now switches its connection from the brain to the adrenal glands rather than from the brain to the ovaries. Now, that takes a few years for that transition to happen. But the reason why we have issues is for most women as they come into this stage of life is they're highly, highly stressed. So the adrenals produce our stress hormones as well. And when there's a balance between producing stress hormones or reproductive hormones, the body will always produce stress hormones first because that keeps us alive, which means our reproductive hormones will come down. We've only got limited resources. So now the messages between the adrenal glands and the brain are getting a little bit messed up because we don't have enough hormone coming from the adrenal glands. And added on top of that is you've got the stress as well. So once the stress goes up, they say when stress is high, intelligence is low, because once we're under the influence of cortisol, then basically our brain is firing off in all different directions. So the reason why your friend and many women have these issues is because of this. Firstly, the redirection of the communication from ovaries to adrenals, and secondly, because we're highly, highly stressed. And if we deal with the stress, and the stress is not just the emotional stress, it's also the physical stress, the food that we're eating, the way that we're moving our body, how we're exposed to toxins in the world and all of that. So when we address the stress that we have control over, then our adrenal glands can do the job they're meant to do, and it can start to produce the hormones and send the messages to the brain. So that was a long answer, but did it answer your question?
Yes, it did. And thank you. Because, I know we're all different. All our bodies are different and the symptoms are going to be different. But it just seems like maybe if we took better care of ourselves as women, that maybe the symptoms would probably be more uniform, but also wouldn't be as excessive? Am I
Well,
putting that
yes.
correctly?
So menopause is a transition. So it's a time of life, the same as when we came through puberty. It's a transition out of our reproductive age. It is not normal to have symptoms. It is common to have symptoms. It's not normal.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And this is what we've got to stop doing. We've got to stop normalizing symptoms. So yes, when we start to address the body, and very much I'm a personalized health coach, so very much it's like the body is an individual, and what each different body type requires when it comes to reducing stress is different. So, you know, the different foods, different bodies need different foods or need different exercise or need different amounts of sleep. So everyone's an individual. And when you can manage that, then you start to see that the symptoms start to go away. Now, symptoms might still come up. I occasionally still get hot flushes, but what that tells me is that I'm stressed. So then the first thing I do is, okay, so I've got a hot flush coming on. What is going on? Am I eating properly? Am I sleeping enough? Have I got too much chatter going on in my head? Because I know that as soon as that happens, that it means that my body is stressed. So now because I know that, I understand that a hot flush means this, what can I do to fix the problem? I don't need to find a pill to fix the hot flush. I need to fix the problem. What's causing the stress? So does it mean I need to go to bed earlier? Does it mean I need to look at my food? Pain is a big one. So I had lots and lots of pain. So pain's a very common symptom that women have, where they have all over body pain and joint pain. Very, very common. That was one of my biggest symptoms. And even though my diet I would have considered was pretty healthy diet, healthier than most people's diet, I was still eating foods that were not right for my body. And when I started to do personalized health and realize exactly the right foods for my body, the pain went because the inflammation went. Now, sometimes I still, I go out and I do things. I got a little bit of a weakness for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Really like New York fudge. I love it. But I don't eat it very often. But I do know that when I eat it, I'm more than likely to get pain afterwards. But I do that consciously. So I know that if I have this, that I'm going to get this. And I'll live with that, because on occasion it's really nice to have some Ben & Jerry's New York fudge sundae or mint. I love their mint chocolate too. But I know that connection. And this is where I work with women, is to teach them, really it's to teach them to listen to their body, because your body always tells you. If you've got symptoms, your body's telling you something is out of balance. Symptoms come from stress, they come from inflammation, they come from the food you eat, how you move your body. As I said, environmental toxins, it's not the hormones causing the problem. The hormones are simply messengers. What information are we feeding? What information are we feeding our body that's causing the hormones to give incorrect messages? So the hormones are not the problem.
Hello, SoloMoms. Do you want an easy and proven way to experience better mood and less anxiety? Even if you think you're too busy with work and family responsibilities, you owe it to yourself to take care of your mental health. Join my easy 5-day gratitude journaling challenge. Studies show that writing down what you're grateful for increase positivity, improve your mood, and help you sleep better. Sleep better? Better sleep? Oh my goodness. But that's only the beginning. Give yourself the gift of better mental health. Learn how you can incorporate gratitude journaling into your life without added stress or overwhelm. Click the link below to sign up for this challenge now and get a free 100-page gratitude journal printable just for signing up. Join the challenge today, because your mental health is too important to ignore.
The problem is how we're treating our body, how connected we are. And many women are not connected to their body, because we've been taught over the years that to be ashamed of our periods and everything that our body goes through, particularly women, in this generation, our generation, we were taught that, periods were not something you talked about. No one spoke about it. There was a lot of shame around it. So women are very disconnected from their bodies. They don't hear the messengers. And so if you've got symptoms, it is about self-care. It's your body speaking to you, saying something is out of balance here. Somewhere you are not looking after yourself physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And because it's the only way the body can speak is through symptoms. And unfortunately, we ignore symptoms until they get really, really loud. And then all we do is give it a pill to shut it up. But we haven't fixed the problem.
You said a lot there. I mean, a lot. And by the way, my favorite is Cherry Garcia. So, but you're so right about because whenever we have a problem, and men always tell us, oh, it's our hormones, and we buy into that. So we don't take care of the symptoms or whatever is causing the symptoms because we have this blanket answer. It's our hormones, and then the doctors want to fix the hormones, which I'm assuming will only cause more problems because when your body can't signal your body properly, then we have problems, right?
Correct, because doctors don't actually fix the hormones.
Right.
Because when you take artificial hormones, or whether or not that is for the oral contraceptive pill or HRT, all that's doing is putting hormones from outside the body inside the body. It's not fixing the imbalance. And yes, there are safer hormones because there's bioidentical as opposed to synthetic. But what you're doing when you do that, and particularly over years and for many, many years, and then I was one of these women, I was on the oral contraceptive pill for so many years. What you do by doing that is you shut down your own hormone production because the body doesn't need to be producing hormones if you're putting it into your mouth every single day and then, you're stopping it for 7 days and you're having a period, which, by the way, is not a period. That's a withdrawal bleed because there's no ovulation going on there. Periods only come out of ovulation, not out of being on the pill, because that's another big misnomer, misbelief that doctors say, well, you'll still have your period. You're actually not. It's not a period. It's just a withdrawal bleed. And originally when they created the oral contraceptive pill, there was no 7 days of sugar pills. It's only because women said they didn't feel like a woman when they didn't bleed that they said, okay, if they want to bleed, we'll just give them sugar pills. That'll make them bleed. But that's not a period. But let's move on. When we're putting the hormones in, we're not allowing the body to balance itself because we're putting a regulated dose in. And particularly as we come through menopause, hormones are going up and down all the time. Estrogen does not just go down, it goes up and then it goes down, and it can change from day to day. And if you then on top of that put a hormone replacement in, basically you're dampening down your own response and you're getting irregular hormones. And yes, it might bring the symptoms down, but unless you're going to stay on those external hormones for the rest of your life, when you take them away, the problems are going to come back and likely worse because your own hormones are now further out of balance. And some women will say, okay, well, I stay on it for the rest of my life. Now, with the synthetic ones, we know that there's possible increased risk of certain diseases. We don't know enough about the bioidenticals. Yes, they're closer to our human ones, but they haven't been around long enough for us to say if there's any long-term side effects. And maybe there isn't, but we don't need that level of hormone anymore. It's like that's my big thing is like, why do we need to put more hormones in? If we're not producing eggs, we don't need to be taking these extra hormones. What we need to be doing is allowing our body to find its own balance. And we do that because by us doing it, we are in control. By taking a pill or a patch, you put in control with something external.
Yeah.
And I'm all about what does my body need, and I want to be in control of my body. I want to, I know that when I eat certain things that this is good for my body, so I'm going to get this result. When I eat other things, it's not so good, so I'm going to get this result. But that power is with me. That decision is with me. Yeah.
So it would seem from what you're saying that what we really need is education as women, because if we're blaming hormones, then we need to change that mindset first of all. And if our own body is the one that should be treating us right, sending the right signal, and it's not, then that's where we need to find the answer, right? Find the answer why it's not communicating and fix that and address that. So I'm going to way back up. How can you tell when you're in menopause?
Okay, so there's 4 stages to the transition.
Okay.
So roughly, and they're different for everyone. So roughly late 30s, early 40s, you go into what is known as very early perimenopause. So perimenopause just means before, so it's early.
And what does that feel like?
So that's when you might start to notice that your cycle maybe, if you've always had a regular cycle, now it might become a little less regular. You might go longer between bleeds. So instead of it being 28 days, 29 days, it might go out to 30, 40 days. So it gets a little bit irregular. Some women, there's not a great deal of change at this stage. Some women might start to experience a little bit of foggy-headedness. And then as we come through, we go into just perimenopause. So that generally happens around about mid-40s. But as I said, everybody's different as to when this happens. And this is when we start to notice we might start to get all of a sudden basically PMS symptoms might become worse, so premenstrual symptoms. Our cycles can go longer. We can actually skip periods, so we can go like 2 months without a period, or there could be a very heavy, you can start bleeding heavier, could get sore breasts, hot flushes, weight might start to come and particularly sit around the waist. So now we've got these really significant, we're starting to really notice that things are changing and we're kind of going, okay, what's happening with my body? So this is kind of, where most women start to really notice the difference. In the early stages, they don't. And then we get into the menopause transition. So the menopause transition in itself is, and this is an arbitrary time. It's like when the periods have stopped and for 12 months, there is no period. So 12 months is an arbitrary time, but that's what they say. If you haven't had a period for 12 months, then you're now through that transition. And the thing is, we don't know when our last period is until after our last period. So that's why we have to wait, because you can go 3 months and then all of a sudden you can start to bleed again. So you're still in this, it's kind of like a waiting room. It's like how long, and you can keep going, you get to 8 months, 9 months, and then you bleed again. It's like, so these are the hormones are just kind of going, they're just trying. The brain and the ovaries just keep trying to talk to each other. So that 12-month time when there is no period is basically that final kind of waiting room. And then once we get through that 12 months, now we are now what is known as postmenopausal, and you're postmenopausal for the rest of your life. So menopause in itself is almost like a line in the sand. It's like before that 12-month time, you're in perimenopause, and then after you're postmenopause. So, but it's all a transition. So I talk to it as a transition. On average, women tend to go through, kind of like that 12-month period around about 52, 53. But for some women, it could be earlier. Some women, it could be later. But it's kind of around that early 50s mark, and then after that. And quite often, symptoms will actually settle down once you get into postmenopause, as your hormones settle at the new level and your body gets used to it being at this new lower level. So long as you've been looking after yourself, symptoms will just start to go away anyway. But my aim is to educate women as early as possible so that they understand this, so that they don't have to have this rocky roller coaster for that 10 to 13 years in that perimenopause stage, so that they can actually make changes at the beginning, which is all about looking after themselves, so that becomes a smoother ride into that, final transition and then into postmenopause. Yes, we're probably still going to have symptoms, but they won't be disrupting life. I mean, it's never ever a completely smooth ride. I think there's always going to be, because hormones are shifting and our body has to get used to that. But having an occasional hot flush is not really going to turn your world upside down, particularly when you understand what's going on, because you're okay. So what have I been doing? Where have I not been looking after myself now that I'm experiencing hot flushes? And now you're in control. So what can I do differently so that those flushes can go?
Yeah. So it's more about, making sure we know what's going on with our body, not what other people tell us.
Yes.
And that we learn to listen to our body and normalize the positive aspect of this period of our lives, instead of normalizing, oh, my bones creak, you know, and I forget everything. It's normal because that's why 50, 60, whatever, right?
You have notes in your phone. If you forget everything, just write in notes or sticky notes. Yeah. I have sticky notes everywhere. It's like, and that's not necessarily a menopause thing. That's also it's a little bit of an aging thing. It's also a part of living a really, really busy life that many of us are just doing so much. Yes, there are changes happening to the brain. It's rewiring, but we've got to stop blaming everything on our hormones and say, okay, so what could I do differently that will help me remember? And if that means I'm going to make some notes, there's nothing wrong with making notes. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You're just making notes. You know, I don't know why people kind of get hung up about that. It's like, it's okay. I have, you can't see me, but I have sticky notes all around my screen, the things I need to remember. And as I remember them and I've done them, I move them. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. Give your body some help sometimes, because sometimes it is just we live busy lives and we are aging, because that's another thing that, you know, there's this bit of a stigma about aging women. It's like as women get older, we lose value because the value comes, you know, when you're young and beautiful or you're having children. And it's like society tells us that, you know, women have to look younger. Put this stuff on your skin so you look younger. It's like, why do I want to look like when I was 20? Why do I want to look like a 20-year-old? It's like, no, I'm 60. I want to look like a 60-year-old because I am who I am. And when we start to accept that, because aging comes along as well, because a lot of people, you know, kind of put menopause and aging together, and there's two big fears there. One, of what's going on with your hormones, and two, well, now I'm going to be too old, I don't have any value. So we kind of need to change our mindset, change our thinking around that. Unfortunately, it's going to be very hard to change society, but we can start changing society by changing that ourselves. And it is happening a little bit, because we see some celebrities, you know, women standing up going, oh, okay, no, this is a great time of life, but we need to see it more at a ground level, at a real person level.
No, you're right. And you know, I think the more we talk about it, the more, you know, people are more aware that, hey, this isn't you per se. It's just that there are things we got to do to, you know, make sure you're your best you. And I had this conversation with someone the other day about the age thing. And I'm like, you know, if you read scriptures, Proverbs 31 talk about the virtuous wife. And if you read about that woman, you know, that the Proverbs talk about, that woman is not some giddy-headed 20-something-year-old. This is a woman who is strong in all aspects of her life, and taking care of everyone, you know. But she also took care of herself.
Yes, so that's what we get with our age is wisdom. And
wisdom.
We're not valuing the wisdom that we have, and you know, older women have always been the wise women, and they're the ones that, you know, that hold the wisdom of the tribe, and who help, you know, young mothers and young children. That's our role now. And it doesn't mean that we're old and haggard. We're still living a very, very, productive life, but we have a wisdom. And the first wisdom is our inner wisdom. And when we start to listen to that inner wisdom and listen to ourselves, then we can share that wisdom with others. And that's what I do. It's like, I share this wisdom with others. I know I've got this wisdom. I've got this wisdom because I've already been there. So I've gone through this process. So I've learned, now I share it with others. So I'm hoping then that those women will share it with others as well, because the more we talk about it, we become the wise women that share for the women who are coming behind us, so that this doesn't become a secret that, I mean, half the population in the entire world goes through menopause. I don't know why this is a big secret. Every single
more than half
goes through it.
More than half.
That's right. It is more than half. It's like, why is this not a big thing? Why is this like, I mean, every woman goes through it. It's not every woman goes through childbirth, but every woman who's ever had a period goes through menopause. And it's like, why is it such a taboo topic? Why are we not, why do women have to go to work and it's joking because they've got hot flushes and things like that? Why is it a joke? Why isn't they not supported? It's like, I just don't get this because, well, I do understand it. It's the patriarchy that does this to us. It's like, but we as women need to claim it and go, hey, yes, I'm going through menopause, and be proud of that rather than being embarrassed and not talking about it. Because I think that's where we change, by having this conversation. And I know when I first started doing this a few years ago, I myself, I kind of would go, depending if I was mixed company, I just work with women in women's health. But now it's like, no, I work with women and support women going through menopause, because guaranteed all of those men that are in the room when I used to go to business functions, they're probably married to a menopausal woman. They probably need, they want to know things.
They need to learn too, right.
They want to know so they can support their wives. So it's like, we need to talk about this, because if we don't talk about it, it becomes buried deeper and deeper and deeper, and women have more and more issues. We need to talk about it. We need to open the conversation. Women need to learn about their hormones, and ideally I'd love them to learn their hormones when they are 12, not when they were 52. But if 52 is the earliest they're going to learn about it, well, great, I'm going to teach them at 52.
Yes. How can we get in touch with you? Like, tell us where you are.
Okay, so I have a website, which is www.angelacounsel, so counsel.com. That's over there. If you go, I want to pop over there. I have a free ebook download over there called The Secret to Getting Rid of Your Menobelly, because that's one of the biggest problems that women come to me with, is saying, I've got this menobelly, I want to get rid of it. So there's a free download there. And then I also run a free, couple of times a year, I run a free workshop called The Secret to Thriving in Menopause. But once you get the ebook, you'll find out about that. And I have a Facebook group called Menopause Conversations, and you can come in and apply to join there. When you come in, one of the questions, I do ask you for your email address, and if you give me your email address, I'll send you a free ebook, which is hormone balancing recipes ebook. Okay. So and I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, all under the name of Angela Counsel. So you can pretty much just Google Angela Counsel and I am there.
Okay, all right. And I'll put some links on the show notes so people can get there as well. Thank you. Thank you, Angela, for coming and talking to us today. Now, what is Angela grateful for today?
What am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful that I'm talking to you right now. I'm grateful that the sun is shining, because where I live here in Australia, we've had a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, and today it's early. Well, it's 11 o'clock in the morning now, but the sun is out. There is no rain, so I'm very grateful to see the sun to dry a few things out.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad for that. I saw a little bit about that on Instagram, so
yes,
I'm glad it's starting to dry up.
Yeah, it's all starting to dry out a little bit now, but now we've got the cleanup.
Yeah. Yes. And before I let you go, give me one piece of advice for a solo mom who, like, anything.
I think it probably is look after yourself. It's okay to put yourself first. I don't know, as a solo mum, that because you're kind of looking after everybody else, you're looking after your kids, and you often don't have anyone to share that with. But it is important, and even if it's just half an hour, that you take some time for you. You don't lose yourself. And as you get older and you're coming through this stage of life, that's the time for you to rediscover yourself. But don't lose yourself, because the kids up and leave. And if you don't know who you are, you're left with you, and it's someone that you don't even know. So don't forget who you are. Don't lose yourself.
Yes. Thank you very much, Angela Counsel, for coming and talking to us today. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
SoloMoms Talk was designed to curate the stories of SoloMoms globally. As a facilitator of this platform, I aim to create a peaceful environment where you can share your heart, feel loved, and get the advice you need. So if this sounds like you, why not RSVP for our next virtual meetup? The link is below.
It's where you can retreat from the chaos of your life so you can recharge, connect with other moms, and get answers to your burning questions. Remember, you're not alone and you don't have to parent in silence.